NIU is one of my favorite electric scooter brands, and they make some of the best electric scooters under $1,000. So when I heard that they were making a suspension electric scooter, I was really excited. This is the KQi 300P and this is the KQi 300X, and we got a first look at these scooters at a convention a few months ago, but now I finally get some time with these. I got the chance to test these over the past week, and I have a lot of thoughts on them, so let's jump right in. So when I first heard that NIU was making a suspension electric scooter, I had daydreams of high performance, full suspension, hydraulic adjustable suspension type scooter, but they've gone for a much more practical, pragmatic approach with their first suspension electric scooters. If you saw this and thought to yourself, wow, that looks a lot like the KQi 3 series, but with front suspension, you actually wouldn't be far off. Now, what I think is interesting about their approach here is that I thought that this would be an upgrade to the KQi 3 series. I thought that this would be a few $100s more. You'd get the suspension, maybe a bit more range, maybe a bit more speed. But instead what they've done is they've essentially done a sequel. And talking to NIU, they've told me that this is their intention, is that they will be phasing out the KQi 3 and that this will be their core line of electric scooters. Now, the best part is that you're getting all these extra features, which I'll go through in a second, and you're getting the higher top speed and the bigger battery, and you're getting all of this for actually the exact same price as the previous KQi 3 models. So I'm really excited to show you what they've done here. Let's look at all the features. Let's look at the top speed. Let's look at the acceleration, all the usual stuff. Let's go. Let's start out by talking about what is different on these 300 models versus the 3 models that is the same across both versions of the 300 model. The first thing is obviously this front suspension. As I mentioned, about 30 millimeters of travel. I'm going to go into more detail on how that suspension actually feels and what difference it makes once I jump on the scooter and talk about ride quality. Kind of the only issue with the old KQi 3, and an issue that I personally experienced, was with the thumb throttle. And I would always get an error code, I'd say every maybe few days, that would give me a throttle error code. And what I'd have to do is I'd have to unscrew these screws, go in and reconnect the throttle. All you do is unplug it and plug it back in, and that would fix the issue. And you know, it wasn't a huge deal. It was a little annoying. It only occurred on one of the 3 or 4 KQi models that I had, but they say with this new twist throttle, they've completely eliminated those issues. They kind of debuted this on the KQi Air, and they saw good success with it, so they've decided to do it on all their models. Now, I am personally partial to their old thumb throttles. They are more intuitive to use, they're more comfortable for long rides, but it's an okay trade-off if it means that you're not going to have any sort of throttle error codes or anything like that. Both of the new models also now have turn signals. The turn signals are only on the bar ends here, but that's kind of where you want them. That's where they're high and nice and visible. You don't get any turn lights in the back, but cars aren't really able to see those anyway. So this is more than enough for nighttime ridings, I think, where you're going to primarily use these turn signals. The charging ports are in a great spot where it's easily accessible, but you're never going to step on it. It's far out of the way of any sort of debris or water or anything. Previous models had it on the side here, and I much prefer this location. The only visual difference you'll see in between these two models is actually the coloring. The X, just like the Max, gets the red calipers. The P gets the black calipers. And I think this red stripe on the deck here is only available on the X model. But other than that, visually they are almost identical. Now visually, that's all that's new. A lot of the new value and the big upgrades is in the performance. So let's talk battery and top speed and acceleration now. The KQi 300P, the P being short for Pro, presumably because this is supposed to be the new version of the KQi 3 Pro, has a top speed of about 21 miles an hour. I think they say 21.6. I was seeing speeds closer to about 20 and a half, almost 21 miles an hour when I was actually out riding it. The KQi 300X has a claim top speed of 23.7, I believe it is, and I actually was seeing speeds as high as 24 miles an hour. So there is actually a pretty big upgrade 3 to 4 miles an hour of top speed, which is not insignificant on the KQi 300X. The difference in motor power is not huge. The P gets a 450 watt nominal motor with max output of 900 watts, and the X gets a nominal motor of 500 watts with a max output of 1,000 watts. I do a drag test actually against my father, who's almost the exact same weight as me, so you'll be able to see that, see which one is quicker. You can probably guess from the numbers, but you'll be able to see by how much the X beats the P off the line. Range-wise, the 300P gets a claimed range of 30 miles. I'm assuming we're gonna see 18 to 22, somewhere in that range, but we will be testing that. And then the X is supposed to get 37.3 miles. I would imagine we're probably going to get somewhere in that 22 to 25 mile range riding in the highest modes, but again, we will see. These are both 48 volt scooters, and the P has a battery capacity of 486 watt hours, and the X has a battery capacity of 608 watt hours. So there is a significant jump in battery size as well as speed when you're going up to the X. Visually and components wise, it's almost identical to the KQi 3 models, but I will run through all of the components here for those who aren't familiar with the KQi 3 models. Starting from the top, you get a pretty decent display. It's just visible enough in this bright sunlight. This will give you your speed and your approximate battery life. But as always, you have the app, which will give you a more precise battery life. Speaking of the app, I will talk about that in a second because it still does have a couple issues that seem to always be present in the new app. Both models get fantastic brakes. They are front and rear disc brakes, and the stopping power is fantastic. It also has regen stopping that you can dial in. I kind of like it either off or at the lowest setting. If you do turn the regen braking off, you're still going to get plenty of stopping power from the disc brakes. That's something that NIU has always been amazing at, is the braking power on their scooters. You get probably my favorite locking mechanism on any scooter. It's super secure. It's really satisfying and quick to lock down. And then it has this deck latch here where the handlebars just pop in, and then to undo them, you just press this button and they pop right back up. It is honestly like my favorite system ever. And at the time when they first released their scooters, they were kind of the only ones making a system so intuitive to use, so simple, so solid. And then it seems like a lot of brands since then have kind of copied this style, but they really paved the path for really good folding locks and really good deck locks. You get NIU's fantastic tubeless 10-inch tires. I don't think I've ever gotten a flat on a NIU scooter, so these are some of the best tires that you can get at the price. You get a ton of deck space as always, and these great tails. There's plenty of space to put your foot back on the tail or rest it flat if you prefer that foot style. And as you can see by the footprints here, there's plenty of room for all the different riding positions that you might want to ride in. And then just overall build quality and geometry is fantastic. I sometimes fail to mention it because it's such a given for NIU at this point, but these scooters are built fantastically. They really feel bulletproof. They can handle the heaviest riders, and you're going to have a lot of stability when you're riding thanks to this slacker tube angle here. You're not going to get a wobbly front wheel at all, even at the highest speeds. Really, really great job on all of their scooters, but especially these new ones. So I think that just about covers all the features of these scooters. Let's jump on the KQi 300X and test that out and see how it feels to actually ride. Okay, let's do an acceleration top speed test. This isn't probably the absolute best place to do it, but the top speed is firmware limited. It's electronically limited, so everyone should be able to hit the top speed. This is more to just show the acceleration of the scooter, and then after this I'll also cut to the drag race between the X and the P that I did with my dad. Ready, 3, 2, 1, go. 15 already. It's a zippy little scooter. It's zippy enough, and there's the top speed, and I could feel it kind of back off as soon as it hit that, even though it could go faster. This is where the suspension is the best, is soaking up these little bumps at these higher speeds. I don't have to worry much about hitting a random bump that's going to throw me off of the scooter. The suspension has my back. But as I was saying, the acceleration is almost at the point where, like, if I were to give this scooter to someone that had never ridden before or only had a little bit of experience, I would warn them. I would say, make sure you're exaggerating your lean. Make sure you're leaning forward when you accelerate, because I think it's going to catch you off guard how fast this scooter is. Oftentimes people buy their first scooter, you know, $500, $600, $700, even $800, and they get it and they immediately, after a week of riding, decide that it's not fast enough for them and they want something faster. And I just don't think you're going to have that with the scooter. Okay, I'm on the 300P, my dad's on the 300X. We are both about the same weight, and I think that the X is a little bit quicker, both acceleration and top speed, but we're gonna put that to the test with a little drag race here. Go ahead and count it off whenever you're ready.
3, 2, 1, go.
Pretty even off the line. Yeah, it pulls away pretty quick. Capping about 20. When I was riding the X, that was capped out at about 23, around there. So you're getting about 3 miles an hour of extra speed, and you're also getting a little bit quicker acceleration. Both of these scooters come with 2 standard riding modes, a e-save mode and then like a sport mode or just a normal riding mode. And then to unlock the top speeds, same thing with the KQi 3 Max, is you have to go into the app and create a custom riding mode and then uncap the top speed. So it's a little tedious, but that's kind of what you expect with NIU. Their app, when you first open your scooter, you need to connect to the app. You absolutely need to connect to the app. If your scooter only goes 9 miles an hour, it's because you haven't connected to the app. And that's because NIU has this admittedly stupid system in place where you have to connect to the app and then go through the tutorial. And then after the tutorial, you need to ride 200 meters in the lowest riding mode, and then it'll let you customize the modes and take it out of e-save mode. And then you actually can skip the tutorial, but what they don't tell you is if you skip the tutorial, you still have to do the 200-meter ride if you want to fully unlock your scooter. But usual dumb app issues aside, this is a fantastic scooter. Both of these are fantastic. The riding comfort is really unparalleled at the price. I believe you can get this for like $850 right now, and there's just not another scooter at $850 that delivers the quality and the riding experience that this 300X does. As with the KQi 3 Max, this scooter is just, you know, built like a truck, and you get the additional, you know, bonus, and that's what I'm going to call the suspension, a bonus. Those times where you're going faster and you hit a bump that you don't expect, having this extra 30 millimeters of travel is definitely a game changer. Now, NIU says that the travel on this is 45 millimeters. I think that's if you fully bottom it out, but it seems to ramp up pretty quick. Even on the bigger bumps, you're not getting full compression of the suspension. Speed-wise, this thing is zippy. I mean, we were going uphill that whole time, and I was still maintaining between 50 and 20 miles an hour. There's no issues with the hill climbing. This is such a great commuter scooter. It's even great for someone who wants a fast, fun scooter and is running on $1,000 budget. And as someone who rides almost every single day, I still hop on these 300s and think they're extremely fun scooters. As I mentioned, lots of different foot positions. I like having a rear tail for the times that you want, you know, a really solid stance. If you're going faster, you need to prepare for any bumps or anything like that. That is great for that. But then if you want a more relaxed riding position, you can flatten out your back foot and give your foot a rest, you know. As mentioned, the brakes are fantastic. I have it in the lower regen mode, So I think in the higher regen modes, it's a little too jerky. And the other thing I noticed with this one is that there's a little bit more progression on the brakes. The KQi 3 Max and even the Pro would like stop you in place. Those brakes were almost too good. This has a lot more progressive feel. I think they adjusted the brakes on these new ones just a little bit better so that you don't have to worry about going over the bars or sliding out or anything like that. Like for this, when I'm going downhill here and I'm wanting to maintain a little bit safer speeds, I can feather these brakes and not have any issues. Let's talk about now my only minor gripe besides the app, obviously, and that's this throttle here. Now, obviously, after talking to NIU, I completely understand why they've gone with the twist throttle. Seemed to solve all the issues with throttle error codes, and even those were fairly rare, and it was, like I mentioned, an easy fix. They just felt that it would be better to have a more reliable throttle. The reason I don't like twist throttles on scooters is because you never want to be adjusting your hand on the bar. You want to have a solid grip on the bar the whole time, and you don't want to be sliding your hand around. Now, intuitively, you would think that a twist throttle would be the best for scooters because you're like, oh, it keeps your hand on the bars the whole time. The issue is that that hand is constantly moving around unless you move this hand over here and kind of do this. And I even find myself oftentimes kind of rolling my thumb along here and using it almost like a thumb throttle. Now, if this is my only gripe about this scooter, then the scooter's obviously really good. And there's a lot of people that are going to still like the twist throttle. Segway with the GT series went for twist throttles, and some people, you know, swear by those. The RS series from InMotion has a twist throttle. So there's lots of high performance scooters that have twist throttles. So that's not to say that this is an objectively bad choice. It's more of my subjective opinion on the throttle. Okay, let's jump into the range test now. This is the 300P. This should have less range, and then we'll be able to calculate what the X would theoretically get based on the range that this guy gets. I'm guessing around 20 miles. This is in the unlocked mode, so the top speed has been customized in the app and stuff, and the acceleration is at the highest setting as well, so this will be the minimum range that this can get. So I will check in once we're getting close to the battery die. Okay, we are on the last battery bar. I've gone just a little over 16 miles. You're getting about 4 miles per battery bar, which would put us right about 20 or 21 miles once this runs out, if 4 miles of battery bar is correct. The thing I really like about this scooter is the fact that it's 48 volt, and so you're not getting really any top speed fall off, even at the very end of the battery life. 36 volt scooters often have a pretty steep speed fall off for the last little bit, like where you only get, 15 miles an hour instead of 20. But this goes up to 20 basically until it dies. So while I ride out these last few miles, I'll give a few thoughts about kind of long-term riding, right? I've been on this for about an hour and 20 minutes, including the occasional break I took just because it's 107 degrees outside. But honestly, the twist throttle is pretty great for when you're just maintaining a steady pace, right? You don't have to be pushing down like you would with a thumb throttle. You just twist it into place and then you can just ride naturally. And then if you need to brake, your hand will naturally release that twist throttle. So in a lot of ways, it's good when you're maintaining a steady speed. I think where thumb throttles are better is when you're constantly changing speeds, accelerating, turning, that kind of stuff. But on these long, steady rides where you're just going 20 miles an hour the whole time, the twist throttle is really nice. Okay, so the scooter beeped at me that it was completely out of battery at 17.7 miles. It didn't quite get to 20. It still does have a little bit of life. It was beeping at me, but it was still going almost the top speed. So I probably could have milked another mile out of it, but I did decide to stop since it's so hot and I don't want to be stranded. So getting to that 15-mile mark is what I'm most concerned about. That's kind of the longest distance that you want to ride in one go. You should be able to get around your city and get where you need to go with at least 15 miles of range. I think the 300X would probably get another 4 to 5 miles. So you're looking at anywhere from 22 to 25 miles with the X, about 18 miles with the P. I just think that this is just one of the best sub $1,000 commuters on the market. And I thought the KQi 3 Max was probably the best sub $1,000 commuter slash cruise around type scooter on the market, and this is an upgrade on that for the same price, which is just ridiculous that NIU is able to do that. I can wholeheartedly recommend everything about these scooters, so go check them out down below in the link in the description. As always, the links, help support the channel, so if you like what you see, go grab one of those. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.